Okay, there's less code in this next learning moment on using a rich text box, something that's commonly seen on a lot of UIs these days, web-based ones as well. So there are a number of free or relatively cheap text editors we can use very successfully right with our ASP.NET Core MVC applications, right? Just to mention a few, a very popular one is Tiny MCE, also CK Editor. I've seen students use that before. One of the newer ones is Quill, Summernote. I like any of those first three because they all tie in directly with a text area, right? And Quill just uses a div. So it's up to you, though. You can make each and every one of these work. And several of them, though, actually have both free and paid tiers, so to speak. But Summernote is, I'm going to use that one for my demo. It's totally free, open source, and away you go, right? By the way, you can go to the website here. It's just simply summernote.org and read about the creators who've shared it and so on and so forth, right? Okay. Well, I'm going to move this off the side and we'll start building the app, right? So what I thought I'd do is we'll just add something to the patient. But in order to use a plugin like this, you either have to, some of them you'll install a NuGet package and then have the resources for it internally, or you can use a CDN, right? So that's the approach we're going to use. Now, up till now, when we look at our views, let me come down here for a second to our main layout. So under shared, here's our underscore layout, right? What we've seen in the past, notice this render section down here. This is how we provide additional JavaScript on individual views, okay? We have a script section. It's not required, so we can optionally add a script section to any view, and then it gets rendered in this spot. Well, going up to the top, okay, here in the head section, here's where we typically put things like CSS and style sheets and so on, right? And this is where as well, because we want to provide a style sheet, most of these editors require one, including Summernote that we're going to use for our demo. We need to be able to optionally have that style sheet rendered up here as well. So I'm going to do something similar to what we have at the bottom, okay? Doesn't really matter where in here I put it. I'm just going to throw it here. There'll be another render section, okay, asynchronously. Now the name I give for this section is up to me. I could go with style sheet or CSS, right? But, you know, to me, it just made sense. It's in the head section. I'm going to use the word head. But let me drive home the point. It's up to you what name you want to give here. Just we have to use that name when we want to provide the actual content to be inserted in this spot, right? Okay. All right. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to add just a big string field for comments to a patient. So let's come to the patient model then, right? So coming up to models, we'll come down here to patient. And somewhere in here, okay, before I get down to the, maybe before I get to the row version and so on, I'm going to throw it in here. It's just going to be a simple nullable string. Okay, it's not required, but we might want to put some comments related to the patient, right? So I'm adding the data type here, multi-line text. Okay, that'll help generate for me a text area if I'm doing this from scratch. And there we go. So I'm not going to put any other restrictions. It's not required or anything else, right? Okay. Now, of course, we'll have to either deal with migration somehow or other, but we'll get to that in a few minutes. Okay. So I'm done in layout. That's all I needed to do there. I can close that. I can actually close the patient. That's the only change I need to do there. So what we're going to do is on both the patient's create and edit views, we're going to add that text area. So this would have been scaffolded if we had done that change earlier, but we can just manually add it, right? So come down to views for patient again. I'm going to want both create and edit. And in both of them, I'm going to add this text area. Now, where I put that is, you know, you can play around with different ideas. My easiest thing to do as a suggestion is just put it below the existing row of input controls. I'll give it the full width of the screen as well. So let me come down here, right? So after all of these inputs, okay, remember we ended the row here and then we started a new row to have our submit button. That way it was always below, right? So this is a good spot. I'm going to put this code right there, right? I'll make a row with the full width on medium or above, the full width of the screen for my comments, right? If it gets smaller than that, it'll just be take whatever screen real estate is available. Okay, so text area comments, and that's it, right? But we need to add a couple things here to the view for it to show properly. Oh, I'll do the same thing in parallel here on the create view. So the create and edit are both the same, putting the exact same code in both. So a row below all the other inputs, right? Okay, so down at the bottom, right, here's where we have some existing script sections and so on, right? Okay, well, I'm going to want a section for a style sheet to add in the head. So I'll do that right here, okay? Section is head, right? And then here is the style sheet, and this comes right from the documentation for Summer Note. So it goes and gets the CSS necessary to display the rich text input properly there. I'll do the same thing on create. There we go. So that'll give the necessary style sheet, but we also have some JavaScript. Now, if I didn't have a script section already, I would just add the whole thing, but I do, okay? So I'm kind of showing here, well, I mean, obviously I'm going to have this one, right? I still have that in place. That's for my validation. So I'm just getting part of what's in my copy-paste file. So here is the main script to make the plugin work, okay? But along with that, we need a script to associate or tie it to our actual input control, okay? So here's our comments, that's the name of my text area, okay? We'll set it up to use Summer Note. Now this height is the default height. The user can always change it. I'm leaving it as fairly short because, you know, unless they need more, why have it take up a huge amount of room on the screen, right? But you might play around with it, make it 200 or 300 and just see what the effect is. Okay, so I'm going to do the same thing. I can probably do all this at once on the create page. Again, I'll go after the validation scripts and I'll throw it in here. All right, fair enough. Okay, so of course we have to deal with the change to the model at this point in time. So it's up to you. If you want to, you could take that approach I've demonstrated in our other course, that I could just come down to our program CS. Because I made a change, I need to drop and recreate the database. I set that to true, and then I could just say use migrations, make that false. That way it would just take the current state of the model and go ahead and build the database based on it. So basically it creates like a brand new migration doing everything, but it doesn't even save it, right? So that's fine, I could do that. But you know what? I could also just follow the normal approach then. Now, you know what? No, I'm going to do it this one time just to show you. So I'll set it to true. So we delete the database, set this to false. So we won't use migrations. And notice we can still use migrations for our security, right? Our application DB context. That's fine. Okay. So I can actually try it now. I'm just going to run it. Of course, I'm going to lose all the data that I would have had in the database if I had done any previous work, but because I'm deleting the database and creating a fresh one, but we're only in development, so that's fine. And we'll just give it a moment to come up here. And there we go. So I'll have to log in, coming to patients. Okay, so now when I come to my create, there is my rich text box, right? I'll go back to the patient list. I also have it here on the edit, okay? So not only can I, pick a image here. Sorry, what's the name of this patient? Is Antoinette. So I'll use a picture like that, give them a couple of things in their medical history. But I can put some text in here as well, right? And I can, do some formatting. Maybe I'll make that underlined. Ooh, I can do some color highlighting and so on. Okay, and I'll just save this. Now, I won't see it here because we haven't added any input controls to display that. But if I come back into edit, I missed a step. I wasn't following my copy paste file, but it's obvious. What did I not do? Yes, you're right. Okay. What I didn't do, remember, we protect against over-posting attacks in our controller, right? So coming back to the actual patient controller, let me come here, controllers, patient. Okay, the system did the right thing. It protected us from actually allowing data that we haven't specified in our whitelist to be added to the system. So we need to add it in here. So it's our comments, right? We'll have to add it to the whitelist here on the create process. And of course, in the edit post, we handle that slightly different. We do it in try update model, right? I'm just going to push enter here so we get it down the screen. So I could do it here, there, it doesn't matter where. I'll just even be really lazy, copy one of these, but make this comments. Okay, so that's the reason why my data wasn't actually saved, is I'd forgot to add that in to the post, right? It's right in the copy paste file. It was the next thing, right? To add it here in the action for create and the action for edit, right? Exactly as we're doing right now. Okay. All right. Now I might as well go on before I run it again so we can see it actually when it saves it and so on, right? Okay. Now, we would normally want the comments to show up on the details page, but our details page is so crowded, I'm going to be a little bit lazy for the demonstration, and I'm just going to have it appear on the actual delete page, right? So let's come down to the views for patient delete. So here where, again, we're using our description list approach. So somewhere, maybe right near the bottom, well, maybe I'll do it right after the doctor. Okay, I'll actually show it here. So we're just going to add another DT-DD pair. Okay, so here's a little bit of a trick to this though. So, yep, HTML display name for our comments, right? Look at this though, HTML.raw. We used HTML.raw once before when we were building up and showing our checkboxes when we have multi-select checkboxes, right? But here I can use it to show the actual raw HTML being stored inside the comments itself, right? Okay, so let's actually run it again. Patience as we do this now. See, because I'm dropping and recreating the database, it's got to seed all the data. Okay. Patience. Pick somebody, anybody, and it's easier to show and edit, right? And I can put some more words in here again, right? And I'll do something similar. Let's do a little bit of underlining. I'll make this bold. Add some color there and so on. So we'll save that, right? And now if I go back here and we come up to the delete, there it is. With all the HTML in place there, all my comments. Okay, I'll go back to the patient list. Let's edit again. I can even do really advanced things. Look at this. I can insert a picture, okay? I'll choose files and throw in a picture here of whatever I want. Click save, right? Now, it'd be nice to maybe add it to there, but I'll just come over here and you see everything, all the HTML, including the embedded graphic, everything is being stored in the database. It's all coming back again here, right? So anyway, it's something that you might play around with. I don't really, once I got this in here, I don't care for this arrangement very much, having it the full width below. So I did in the posted solution, I did take time to rearrange it a little bit. Let me show you what that looks like just quickly. All right, so this is what it looks like after doing a little bit of rearranging. Then I have the data showing down here. It's still doing all the same work of allowing me to have this rich text input with links and graphics and everything else and grids and tables, and I can check off to remove that, and away we go. So we're back to the patient list. I can click delete, and I do see my HTML, my raw HTML is being preserved and carried around wherever I take it. All right, that's it.